Hello and welcome to the Soul Elevation Podcast, guiding your ascension to new heights. I'm your host, Kara Goodwin, and I'm so excited to be here with you today. I want to talk about how you can find unhealed wounds within you because it is through healing our wounds that we're able to work on our ascension. When we still have our wounds and our things that are holding us back, we're not able to ascend. We're not going to be able to become enlightened, however you want to think of it. But our spiritual development, our spiritual evolution depends upon us healing our wounds. And sometimes we know what those wounds are. We have trauma. We can still feel that trauma. We know that that trauma is there, but sometimes there are things that are hidden, and that goes into the shadow. I have a lot of content, particularly from 2025 on the shadow, because that's been such a recurrent theme. But there was something that I was listening to on Friday that talked about how triggers are wounds that painted it in a different picture than I've ever thought of it before. This came from the book of Lee Harris and Regina Meredith. I can't remember now. I think it's something about like the new human or um, something like that. I'll put the link to it in the notes, but I'm listening to this book now. And Lee Harris is a channel. And so he was channeling this information from higher dimensional beings. And the way that they described it, they said, when you're triggered, the trigger is showing you an unhealed wound within you. And you have, because there is that unhealing within you, you don't have a barrier yet against that trigger. And that I found really, really powerful because it wasn't new to me that, you get triggered from your wounds and that, I mean, I write about this in my book, Your Authentic Awakening, how I've seen this in the multi-dimensional kind of in a vision, let's say. I've seen this depicted as mirrors, and that everything that we think we're looking at outside of ourselves is actually mirroring ourselves back to ourselves. So if we have a problem with somebody, if we're judging somebody, what is actually happening is everything that they are is a reflection back to us. And I actually saw it as these fractal mirrors. So they were really intricate and complicated. There were all like a kaleidoscope was what it reminded me of, but they're all reflective. And so it looks like a person, or it could look like an event or whatever. But actually, the way that I saw it in this vision, it happened to be my daughter. I was kind of tuning into the energy of my daughter in this vision. And what I was seeing is that she was comprised of all these fractals of mirrors in the same way that if you look through a kaleidoscope and it's all those little shapes and then they kind of come together and they form these geometries. It was like that, and it was constantly moving and changing, but I couldn't even see her at all. All I was seeing were these geometric, fragmented, um, reflective mirrors. And so everything was reflecting back to me. So if I was disagreeing with something, I didn't have like a specific thing in this. It was much more big picture, kind of 50,000-foot view. Um, but you can drill that down and say, well, what does that mean? Well, if I'm seeing something to do with somebody and I don't approve, or I'm judging what they're doing, I'm actually what I'm focused on with them. It's actually something it's being reflected back. It's something within me that I have a problem with or that I haven't reconciled yet. So that's how I've seen that within myself, or for myself. But I really appreciated this new way to look at it, which was that when we're triggered, it shows us this wound. And so if you think of it, but the wound, because it is a wound, we don't have that protection. And so if we think of it from the energetic standpoint, you have your energy body, you have an etheric body that is kind of part of that physical body. I read that recently as the physical body is kind of like honeycomb in a beehive, and then the etheric body is like the honey in the honeycomb. So, if you think of the etheric body as being like the energy of the physical body, you have an astral body that is a little bit beyond that, and it encompasses the etheric body. We have all these, and then you keep going. You've got the mental body, the emotional body, and it just keeps going. So all of these energy layers, but when there's a wound, there are gaps and vulnerabilities in the energy layers. And so we don't have any protection. And so it would be the same sort of idea as you have like a fresh wound on your skin, and it's going to be sensitive, right? And if that's why we put bandages over it for a lot of reasons. We want to keep dirt out, we want to keep germs out, we want to protect it in case we, bang it against something so that it's not so raw. So all of those things, we need that bandage to give us that extra protection because it's vulnerable. And so when we feel triggered, a lot of times we feel angry, right? Or we feel sad, we feel upset. It's not a pleasant way to be. And if we feel that someone has made us feel that way, we might think, well, it's very natural to think that there's something wrong with that person. And yeah, they've got their own things to work out. Everybody does. Everybody's got their things, and they're making mistakes, and they are going to upset us. But it's also up to us to come back to ourselves and say, yeah, it may be that that person has their issues, and I don't agree with what they're saying, and I don't have to accept what they're saying. But if it's really bothering me, then there is an opportunity there to say, okay, so what is it within me that's still raw? That has such a problem with this, that it's really upsetting my day or my week or my month, or however long. I mean, decades. People can hold on to these things for decades, where somebody has triggered them and they just can't let go of it. And so it's an opportunity for us to say, okay, that I have this wound within me, it's exposing something, and I don't have the protection, at this point, for me not to be sensitive to it. So there is healing to be done. And there are lots of ways that we can do this healing. Sometimes it's helpful to talk to a professional, talking to a therapist, getting somebody who is trained to help you navigate, depending on the depth of the wound, because there can be trauma there. So it can be something that's really hard to go through on your own. We may have things that aren't so deep that we can manage on our own, but there can be repressed memories. There can be parts to our aspects to ourselves, to our personality, that we don't realize how we're coming across. And maybe there's somebody has a gets really angry with us, and they fly off the handle, and we don't feel that we deserved that, and that's what triggers us. And that seems appropriate that we would be upset by that. But maybe there's an opportunity there for us to look at ourselves. Maybe we also have a tendency to do this, but that's hidden. We don't recognize that we do this to other people too, because it seems justified when we do it. We're stressed, or we're upset, and we should be able to take it out on whoever we want, even if it's not the person that we're actually upset with. And that seems appropriate for us because we need an outlet, and we find a weak link. We find somebody that will just take it, or that we don't feel threatened by, and we treat them in a bad way, and we don't see that we're doing that. But if we feel that we're on the other end of that, and we have a really hard time receiving that, then there may be a signal there that it's time for us to reflect on our own behavior. And that's just one example, but that can, that can be something that could be a very real potential for people. So, um, lots of different things that we can look at, but it is true that whenever we get a trigger, no matter how we want to look at it, if we want to look at it as everything is a reflection of us, so when we come up against something that is making us feel off center, then we have an opportunity to see what that reflection is for us. Or if we have, if we want to think of it like a wound, that, and then as we heal that wound, as we reveal it, as we allow it to come to the surface, and we heal it, and how do we heal it? We heal it by becoming aware of it, and then coming into acceptance of it, and forgiving the other, forgiving ourselves. And, those can be very simple words for me to say. And I do understand that that can be hard. So it's not to say that this is easy, but it is worthwhile. If you are wanting to ascend, if you are wanting to grow spiritually, to keep going on your spiritual path, this is the work. It's not necessarily easy work. Um, but it is possible, and it is so worthwhile. So that's the invitation. Um, I hope that that makes sense. And I am excited to let you know that on August 2nd, I have a galactic summit coming up. I've got amazing guests on that: Debbie Solaris, Viviane Chauvet, Kimberly Meredith, Daniel Scranton, Neil Gower, Isha Patel, all kinds. We've got 10 incredible speakers. I'll put the link. You don't want to miss it. You can join for free. You can upgrade. There's some amazing VIP gifts. So I'll put the link to that. And yeah, I hope you have an amazing day ahead. And I wish you many, many blessings.